The time is now 7 o'clock.
It is graduation season. It's a time to celebrate a student's achievements and look ahead to their bright future, right? Well, behind the celebrations and the cap and gown, there are some added costs, like flowers and those family lunches or dinners. But people are getting really thrifty, even creating a secondhand market for flowers. You know, necessity is definitely the mother of all inventions, and people are getting creative just to make ends meet. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, the 11th of February on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us so bright and early. Well, it is definitely graduation season. I'm attending a graduation tomorrow, giving a little shout out to my niece, Chloe. She is graduating from elementary school. So we're super excited. You know, however, I noticed this because my sister, she was complaining. She was just commiserating about the cost of flowers. Okay, I'll admit, she was complaining because she went to order the bouquet of flowers for her daughter, for my niece, and she said, 언니, it was for a very, not tiny, but kind of medium-sized bouquet of flowers, and they wanted 7만 원 at the flower shop where she went, right? And I was kind of like, should you look elsewhere? And so there is this trend on the country's secondhand sales platforms this time of year for fresh, gently used bouquets of flower. Yes, people are resorting to reselling or reusing flowers in time for graduation season. The reason being that flowers, they're getting expensive too. So according to the Korea Agro Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation, the demand for cut flowers has been going down by about 22% from the same period last year. So florists and flower sellers say that they have multiple customers come in, take a look, and they walk out upon hearing the price. It's true. Well, high prices and the stagnant economy are causing people to keep to a strict budget. To top it off, flowers are more expensive during, wintertime. And most cut flowers are raised in greenhouses, and the fuel needed to keep these greenhouses warm keeps flower prices quite high during this time of year. And this means that graduation flowers are definitely an expensive commodity. So with that comes the secondhand market. It's easy to see posts for, just bought and freshly, bought or briefly used bouquets on secondhand platforms. Sold at about 10 to 20,000 won. Actually, yesterday, I was just curious. I looked, and in my neighborhood, people were selling gently used bouquets of flower for 30,000 won. And you might think, well, why don't you just buy like a new, bouquet? Well, it's because that new bouquet is going to cost you more than double. So, yes, others are looking for, the non-fresh flowers, including flowers made of soap or candy or stuffed animal bouquets. People are resorting to lots of different other things. And experts say that consumer sentiment these days is in favor of cost efficiency. That's the key word. And this time of uncertainty will likely continue through this year until next year. All right, so since we're talking about, flowers and graduation, let's talk about graduation for our text topic. So whether it was elementary, middle, high school, for college, university, or beyond, what do you remember about the ceremony? Something that really stood out to you? Like, who was there? What did you do afterwards? Did you have that jjajangmyeon? And, did you do, in the States, it's very popular to do a senior prank. And I'll tell you about my story, or at least my year of what happened. A couple people were arrested. Not I, but anyhow. 여러분의 졸업식 추억에 대해서 알려주시면, 졸업식에 선생님한테 정말로 밀가루 뿌렸어요. Is that like a thing? I missed that whole train. 가족들과 친구들과 졸업식 외식 메뉴. I know back in the day, I've seen all the 응파es and all the dramas that portray this, right? With the always the jjajangmyeon or whatever it is, but things have changed. So let us know what your graduation was like. Send in your messages to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So go to the YouTube platform, and what do? You type in BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean to find our channel. Click on the pink logo, and then you can subscribe, log in, and chat away with our other waivers. Also, on your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. Also on Kakao Talk. So to find us, same thing there, type in BEFM. Well, you got to go to 친구 찾기 first, right? And then type in BEFM or 부산영어방송 and to send in your messages. Yes, that's a great way to do so as well. That is for free. The ways you can listen to our program and 90.5, 103.3 FM. That's on the radio if you're in the Busan area. Like I said, we are streaming live right now on YouTube, but you can watch again at your leisure. We're available on 2 apps. The Patbang app, but also our BEFM app. Both are free to download and easy to use. All right, looking ahead to our morning together. Who do we have coming in today? We have Andrew, right, for sports. And then in hour number 2, we have the health. That's right, with Bonnie and their special interview today. We're going to be focusing on bird flu. AI, but not that AI, artificial intelligence. We're talking about avian influenza. I briefly touched upon this for Cat's Pig yesterday. At least in the States, there's a lot of the bird flu going around, affecting poultry farms, even dairy cows, and the supply of eggs shrinking, etc. So we're going to find out about this and, of course, how it affects us human beings. That's coming up in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:07. These are today's headlines. Court to hold hearing on whether to cancel Yoon's detention. The Seoul Central District Court will hold a hearing on February 20th to determine whether to cancel President Yoon's detention. Prosecutors indict 63 courthouse riot suspects. Prosecutors have indicted 63 people for their alleged involvement in violence at the Seoul Western District Court last month in protest against the issuance of an arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol. Teacher stabs 8-year-old student to death at elementary school in Daejeon. A female teacher in her 40s allegedly stabbed an 8-year-old student to death at an elementary school in the central city of Daejeon yesterday and inflicted stab wounds on herself, authorities said. One dead, one injured in oil tank explosion in Ulsan. One person died and another was injured when an oil storage tank at Onsan Industrial Complex in Ulsan exploded yesterday. Hamas suspends hostage release over ceasefire violation. Hamas has said it is delaying the release of Israeli hostages indefinitely over what it claims as violations of the ceasefire deal, posing threats to the 3-week-old ceasefire. And these are today's headlines. It's time for Busan Updates. We have Sue in the studio, but first, let's say hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so we're talking about graduation. Do you have any memorable stories?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
When I was graduating from my elementary school,
Yes.
I remember feeling sad, but also at the same time, I was excited for a new chapter of my life. And my family had like jjajangmyeon afterward. But then I remember the gift. There was a boy who had a crush on me, and then
He had a crush on you, and
he made the flower roses, so origami. So there were 99 of them, but
99.
then on the card it says, the last one is you. I'm sorry.
That's so cute and like, oh, you're the last flower. Oh, that's really sweet. That's dedication.
Yes.
Folding all of those, 99 of them.
Yeah, I will never forget that. Yeah.
I have multiple, so I'm going to share mine.
Okay.
From it was called junior high school back in the middle school, 중학교 졸업식 때. So I was the 학생회장, is that what we call it, the student body president. So I had to go on stage and give a speech and whatever. And then my mom, she was crying the whole time. But anyways, I was wearing a strapless dress.
Oh, okay.
However, like during the speech, the dress kept on coming down. So the whole time I was doing this, like, trying to hold it up with my arms, because I'm holding the speech in my hands, so I couldn't keep on doing this, right? But I was so embarrassed because, like, when you're in middle school and you haven't fully developed, so the dress kept on coming down. So anyhow, that was like.
So nothing happened. No disaster.
No disaster,
Okay.
but everybody was so distracted. And then like I saw the video afterwards. My parents they shot of the whole time I was like trying to hold my dress up with my arms. It was just a disaster. So that was a bittersweet moment.
Okay.
So we're going to get into our first story, and an unfortunate one, because in broad daylight, a robber broke into a bank in Busan, but was subdued within a couple minutes, right?
Yes. So this took place at the Gijang police station at around 11 a.m. yesterday. A man in his 30s, identified as Mr. A, entered the bank wearing a mask and a beanie. He shouted at the customers and told them to kneel down, holding a black plastic bag, which looked like a gun. And the bank quickly fell into a state of panic with people screaming. Mr. A then attempted to break into the branch manager's office.
Yes.
However, the manager held the door shut and called the police right away. Failing to get into the office, Mr. A went to the counter and demanded that 50,000 bills be placed in a suitcase that he had brought.
Yes.
But then a brave man in his 50s suddenly tackled Mr. A from behind and grabbed his arms. At the same time, the bank's security guard and a male employee with 2 more staff members all helped subdue the suspect.
Oh my goodness. So the good news is no one was seriously, injured physically, but I'm sure it was kind of terrifying for the people.
Yes. So later it was turned out that a toy water gun that shaped like a dinosaur was inside the plastic bag.
I see.
And police are currently investigating his motive for the crime. And also the brave citizen in his 50s who played a big part in subduing the suspect is from Special Forces Unit. And he will be honored with a certificate of appreciation from the police.
Right. And we have to add that this is very rare in Korea to have like a bank robbery in the first place, but in broad daylight as well. So thanks for reporting on this very local story. Next, let's talk about this. Following up on the election news for the Busan Superintendent for Education. So what's going on? Tell us about what's going on.
So last week we heard that the unification process of the conservative side was on the verge of collapse.
Yes.
Now, on the progressive side, there are 2 candidates. Kim Seok-jun, who is a former Busan superintendent, and Cha Jung-in, a former president of PNU, Busan National University. However, only Cha Jung-in registered for the race, and Kim Seok-jun criticized the selection process, calling it legally questionable and outdated, so he refused to participate. And Cha Jung-in accused Kim of prioritizing personal victory over progressive unity. Within 50 days left, there's still a chance for a last-minute agreement, but division may benefit the conservative candidates.
I see. So that's what's happening on that front. Thanks for the update. All right, next, let's talk about toll collectors. The fate of toll collectors in Busan, it does vary depending on the toll road operator, right? So tell us more about this.
백양터널 became toll-free in January after its 25-year private operation ended. As a result, all 20 outsourced toll collectors lost their jobs. Some found new positions on other toll roads, but many became unemployed.
Ah, really? So what about employees at 광안대교 Bridge? Because I noticed, like, I went on the bridge. I'm like, there's nobody there.
Right, because of the
Yes.
smart tolling
Right,
system
right.
in February. So it eliminated the need for toll collectors, but the workers were not dismissed. Instead, 19 out of the 79 employees were reassigned within the Busan Facilities Corporation,
Yes.
and the remaining 60 took on tasks such as handling unpaid toll fees and customer inquiries. And this job security was possible because in 2020, 광안대교 toll workers were directly hired as permanent employees under a government initiative to convert irregular public sector workers into full-time employees.
I see.
So experts suggest that if similar protections had existed for private sector toll workers, the 백양터널 toll collectors might have kept their jobs. And they emphasize that while technology reduced certain jobs, providing workers with transition opportunities can help mitigate the negative impact of automation.
Indeed, indeed. We don't want to hear about anybody losing their jobs, right? All right. Next, Busan City has announced that it will expand the HaHa Health Partner Program. This is for senior jobs and also health benefits.
Yes, last year Busan had the highest percentage of residents aged 65 and older among Korea's 8 metropolitan cities, with almost 24% of its population being seniors. So it's the first city to enter a super-aged society.
Yes.
So the goal of this initiative is to address both senior employment and health issues by promoting collaboration between the health, welfare, and medical sectors. It is the first of its kind of initiative in the country. And the pilot project of this program initially focused on community health centers last year. And this year, it has expanded to over 90 institutions, such as health support centers, public and private hospitals, and senior clubs across districts. And there are 142 senior health partners who are trained to conduct screenings for frailty, such as social isolation, depression, and aging-related physical and mental decline.
I see.
And these trained partners will work with community activists to support elderly residents.
Yeah, so hopefully this program will further enhance senior health issues, meaning to help them, and of course with employment issues as well. All right, next up, waivers. Oh, how about this? I'm going to throw it out there. Would you like to exercise under the moon? What is this about? Exercising under the moon?
Right. The city has been selected for the 2025 Regional Autonomous Living Sports Activity Support Contest organized by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, 문화체육관광부. Excuse me. This program aims to create the city as a hub for recreational sports and improving the quality of life for citizens. Busan City secured the national funding for the support program with 2 projects.
Yes.
So one of them is this exercise under the moon.
Okay.
달밤의 체조 부산. So it's a recreational sports program that will be held at waterfront parks, citizens parks, and other locations.
Yes.
And the program is open to all citizens, offering recreational gymnastics, 생활체육, so meaning a light form of exercises and other physical exercise opportunities. And the other one is Run Busan, 달려라 Busan. So this program will offer weekly customized track and field activities, 육상 종목 program, and health assessments for vulnerable groups in areas like Dadepo Beach
Yes.
and Samnak Ecological Park.
Ah, sounds very nice. So thanks for letting us know about this. We can be healthy and happy for the year 2025, of course. So thank you for all the updates, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Catherine.
All right, now it's time for your traffic and weather. It's now 7:18, and here's your traffic report. There is congestion on Hwangryongdaero from Munjeon intersection to the Chamber of Commerce intersection. And there's some traffic buildup detected on Nakdong-Namno from Myeongji interchange towards the Gangso police station. Also looking quite slow on the Dongso overpass from Pumniko ramp to the old Kaegum tollgate. As for the weather, it's -3 degrees under clear skies here in Busan. You know, we're finally getting a break in the cold wave. The daytime high will go up to 9 degrees. There is a dry weather special report in place over Busan. across the country, starting off cold at 10 below zero in parts of the country. However, the daytime highs will go into the positive territory across most parts. Clouds to start rolling in tonight with rain forecast in Cheonnam and Jeju. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. We have Haley in the studio. Let's say hi first and good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, were you first today on the board?
I think 고수님 was first. I was 2등.
2등.
I would not take that away from him.
Of course, yes. I've stopped, trying to be number one because it feels
That's like insider trading.
Yeah, people are like, what's going on there? So, I was just trying to be nice and say the first one to say hello to all the waivers, but it's okay. I can give that up. Well, let's talk about our text topic, graduation stories.
All right, so high school graduation, I was on the student council, so I was a part of the planning committee.
Yes.
So yeah, I was doing kind of making sure everything was running smoothly. And then for my university graduation, I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go?
I didn't go. It was just
a lot of people don't go.
It was too crowded. And it was the summer, and my sister had come back from Korea to celebrate, so we went shopping. But we were walking through a campus, this very empty campus, and a bird pooped on her head. So that was fun for me.
Bird pooped on her head.
head.
So isn't that
it's supposed to be good luck.
Supposedly,
yeah.
but
I think it was better luck
nasty.
because it wasn't on my head. So I was, physically rolling on the ground laughing.
Yes.
And we were trying to find an open bathroom, but because it was graduation day, campus was closed. So yeah, overall, she did a little slapstick comedy for me. That was fun.
For my high school graduation, I did not partake because I'm a goody two-shoes, but some of my classmates, they broke onto the school grounds and they vandalized the school. They thought it was for fun. However, what happens is in the States, once you turn 18, you're an adult. So some of them had already turned 18.
They had,
the police were called. And so for 3 of them, they weren't even able to walk graduation. And they got their admissions to university revoked. It was serious at the time.
Because now they're felons? Or at least...
Yeah, so what the school did, they were not happy
because usually for our Korean listeners, senior pranks like 졸업반, like 고3 장난 is a thing.
It's a thing.
We had senior skip day and then we had senior pranks.
But you don't want to do
anything illegal. Well, at Leslie schools they released livestock onto the hallway.
I'm sure that broke something, some sort of law or something. But yeah, our school was harsh.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a big deal. So let's jump into our first story. U.S. President Donald Trump is going to announce a whole host of new tariffs.
Right. So we are, and by we, I mean the rest of the world, we're anxiously awaiting for the official announcement. But he did say, actually on his way to the Super Bowl, that he will announce a 25% tariff for import tax on all steel and aluminum entering the United States. So this will have the biggest impact in Canada, but also hit South Korea.
Sure.
Trump also said that there would be an announcement later in the week about reciprocal tariffs on all countries that tax imports from the U.S., but he didn't specify which nations, although if he does say all, that could kind of apply every single country, or if there would be any exemptions. So his new byline seems to be, if they charge us, we charge them. And so that's where we are.
Okay, so big question. How is this going to affect South Korea?
Right. Once again, nothing is official, but if there is a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, definitely will be a big impact. And yesterday morning, markets definitely responded, causing stocks of major South Korean steel and car makers to fall because South Korea is a major steel exporter to the United States.
Yes.
So at the opening of the market, shares of POSCO holdings dropped as much as 3.6%. For Hyundai Steel, 2.9% drop. And car maker Kia saw a 3.6% drop early in the morning.
I see.
But that's the market. Let's parse through the actual industry. So first off, the steel and aluminum tariffs, they will definitely impact South Korea if they are implemented.
Yes.
Because South Korea exports about 2.6 million ton of steel to the States. About 13% of all of South Korea's steel exports go to the U.S.
I see.
So back in 2018, during Trump Part 1, he imposed a 25% tariff on steel and 10% tariff on aluminum. Back then, South Korea was able to get an exemption in return for a quota. So we only export some 2.6 million ton of steel to the U.S. because of this quota. However, when it comes to the second part, the so-called reciprocal taxes or
Yes.
상호 관세, this may not affect South Korea. I mean, here's fingers crossed because we do have a free trade agreement with the U.S.
Yes, indeed. So, of course, everybody's kind of on edge. Every country that does trade with the
Right,
U.S.
right.
So we will continue to follow that story. Well, let's bring it back to Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol's supporters tried to storm the National Human Rights Commission building yesterday.
Right, and we'll get to why the resolution that was on the table yesterday, because it was scheduled to rule on the motion to guarantee the president's right to defense in his
Yes.
impeachment trial. So this motion was introduced by committee member Kim Yong-won. It calls for a full guarantee of the president's right to defense by the judicial branch and the law enforcement, including a motion to release the president to investigate him without detention.
Yes, yes.
So in the morning, his supporters rushed into the Human Rights Commission building, trying to enter the conference hall where the meeting would be held. The police dispelled them, but they spread out across the building and waited for the meeting to start.
Right. And then the Human Rights Commission passed this resolution.
Right, so they did. It was a revised version that passed with 6 yeas against 4 nays. So this resolution once again recommends that the authorities guarantee the president's right to defense in his impeachment trial. Also, it calls for withdrawing the impeachment motion against the Prime Minister Han Deok-soo, and reinstating Han as the acting president. So there was a significant clash even inside the conference room with the committee members. So those who were in favor of the motion said that the martial law declaration was a form of governance, a point that the president had made multiple times.
Okay.
However, those against the motion said that making this recommendation before the courts ruled on whether that accounted for insurrection or the impeachment could come off as the Human Rights Commission defending martial law. In any case, opposition lawmakers condemned this decision, including Democratic Party's lawmaker Ko Min-jung, who said that this is a day that the Human Rights Commission died.
I see. Okay, so that's what happened yesterday. All right, let's move on and talk about former President Moon Jae-in, who gave a very candid interview about how he feels about the current president.
Right. So President Moon has sometimes gone on social media to express concerns, but he basically full out gave a tell-all interview with the paper 한겨레, saying that he fully regrets picking Yoon Suk-yeol as his prosecutor general back when he was president, and thus that position gave him kind of a political stepping stone all the way to the presidency.
Okay.
So this was an unprecedented tell-all for a former president to do so, or so candidly about his successor.
Right.
So first, former President Moon, he expressed his shock at having when the martial law declaration took place, and said that he thought President Yoon's, quote, illness of delusion, end quote, was quite deep.
I see.
And then when asked about his role, Moon's role in selecting then prosecutor Yoon Suk-yeol as the prosecutor general, former President Moon fully took responsibility. He said that he has felt guilty over passing this administration on to Yoon, and he hasn't been able to sleep at night ever since the martial law declaration and subsequent impeachment over how bad he feels for the people.
I see.
And looking back at what happened back in 2019, former President Moon said that his administration was, even back then, divided over appointing Yoon Suk-yeol as the prosecutor general because, and this was kind of an expose as well, he said that back then, those who knew Yoon as prosecutor called him short-tempered and very protective over his own people. However, they had no choice but to select him because out of all the candidates, he was the only candidate in favor of prosecutorial reform. And if you remember back then, that was really the biggest item on the agenda for the administration. And as for what happened afterwards, despite the scandals and issues, the president back then President Moon Jae-in couldn't dismiss Yoon because that was not within his rights as the president. And then to his own party, the Democratic Party, Moon said that the DP and its chair Lee Jae-myung must take back the administration in an early presidential election, so making his views about the impeachment fully known there. However, called on them to embrace, expand, and unify.
Right. Once again, this was regarding the interview. So, former President Moon Jae-in, right. For a final story, let's talk about jobs, because it is tough out there. It's a tough job market, and this is even narrowing the openings for public institutions.
Right. Public institutions and public corporations, they kind of have a reputation of being a very stable, well-paying, high-quality job, especially when it comes to non-capital regions that don't have major corporations. But public institutions, they're even hiring fewer full-time positions and a smaller percentage of young people. So according to the government's information disclosure system for public institutions, the 339 public institutions in the country hired 19,920 full-time positions last year. And this figure has actually been on the decline since 2019, going below the 20,000 mark for the first time.
Okay.
So of these new positions, 82% was young people, but that's also the lowest in 4 years. So the government's goal last year was to hire 24,000 new hires, with 20,000 of them being young people. So the inability or just them not hiring youth led to this overall decline.
I see. Well, what's the reason for the government not meeting its quota, its hiring goals?
Right. I mean, it will differ because there are 339 public institutions. But the government said that after the end of the COVID pandemic, public health institutions, so public hospitals, they didn't hire, or they drastically decreased their hiring at 40% decline across 11 public hospitals.
Right.
So the Finance Ministry, which is the body that oversees these public institutions, says that it'll make sure that these public jobs would be and could be a firm pillar amid the job market's freeze.
So that's a snapshot of what's happening in this tough job market. But thank you for going over all the news. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
Well, guess what? Wavers out there, it is time for our first song of the morning. It is 이젠 안녕. This is by 015B. No? 015B. Oh, sorry, I saw it late, as requested by Betty.
우리 처음 만났던 어색했던 그 표정 속에 서로 말로 기가 어려워 망설였지만 음악 속에 묻혀 지내온 수많은 나날들이 이젠 돌아갈 수 없는 아쉬움 됐네. 이제는 우리가 서로 떠나가야 할 시간, 아쉬움을 남긴 채 돌아서지만 시간은 우리를 다시 만나게 해주겠지. 우리 그때까지 아쉽지만 기다려봐요. 어느 차가웠던 겨울날 작은 방에 모여 부르던 그 노래는 이제 기억 속에 묻혀진 작은 노래 됐지만 우리들 맘엔 영원히 안녕은 영원한 헤어짐은 아니겠지요. 다시 만나기 위한 약속일 거야. 함께했던 시간은 이젠 추억으로 남기고 서로 가야 할 길 찾아서 떠나야 해요. 이제는 우리가 서로 떠나가야 할 시간, 아쉬움을 남긴 채 돌아서지만 시간은 우리를 다시 만나게 해주겠지. 우리 그때까지 아쉽지만 기다려봐요. 어느 차가웠던 겨울날 작은 방에 모여 부르던 그 노래는 이제 기억 속에 묻혀진 작은 노래 됐지만 우리들 맘엔 영원히 안녕은 영원한 헤어짐은 아니겠지요. 다시 만나기 위한 약속일 거야. 함께했던 시간은 이젠 추억으로 남기고 서로 가야 할 길 찾아서 떠나야 해요. 안녕은 영원한 헤어짐은 아니겠지요. 다시 만나기 위한 약속일 거야. 함께했던 시간은 이젠 추억으로 남기고 서로 가야 할 길 찾아서 떠나야 해요. 안녕은 영원한 헤어짐은 아니겠지요. 다시 만나기 위한 약속일 거야. 함께했던 시간은 이젠 추억으로 남기고 서로 가야.
Once again, 이제 안녕 by 015B. All the I just came out and was just, they were reprimanding me. Okay, I said it wrong. I'm sorry. All right, let's go back to graduation talk. What was like the most memorable thing about any of your graduation, whether it's ceremonies or, you know, thereafter? Like, what did you guys have? I thought in Korea, the big thing was 짜장면 아니에요? Like, I don't see any messages regarding what you ate. Or what's the trend these days? Like if you have kids or if you're of an age where you're going to someone's graduation, is it still like going out to eat? I'm assuming usually after graduation you take photos and then you go out to eat, no? Or is there something else that's going on? Tell me what the culture's like. So I definitely want to hear about your stories real quick. Let's get to some of your stories. So I want to read Leslie's story because I thought it was very different, especially because it's from American culture. So I wanted to share this with you. So she writes about this. We had seniors, 고3, that participated in 4-H who raised farm animals. Okay? The senior prank consisted of them bringing in like 5 very large hogs and a handful of goats and wrangling them down the hallways. Ooh, so I only had 156 people in my graduating class. So the ceremony was in the school gym. Left straight after the ceremony to go camping with friends. 오, 졸업식 마치자마자 친구들이랑 캠핑을 갔는데요. The funny thing is about this. 그러니까 미국에는 senior prank, 고3 때 약간 장난을 치는 게 있는데 약간 it's very gray. 선을 넘으면 안 돼요. It shouldn't be illegal. So this one's kind of fun though. They brought in, 돼지 5마리에다가 염소도 학교 안에 들어오게 했대요. So those are like kind of, not illegal, fun pranks. The one I told you about earlier, not fun. You shouldn't be vandalizing your school. So I wonder what happened to those kids, though. I do wonder. All right, I will read more of your messages, but for now, we're going to get to Cat's Pick for Tuesday. For today's Cat's Pick, let's talk about the Mona Lisa. It's at the Louvre Museum in Paris. This is like the most visited museum in the world. But guess what? The Louvre is getting a makeover. And here's a clip from CBS News.
Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa is the star attraction in a museum filled with masterpieces. And when you take a look at that museum, the Louvre in Paris, you can see it's a masterpiece in its own right.
It's the most visited museum in the world, but the people who run it and the people who visit it agree the Louvre needs some serious TLC.
We have problems with the building.
Museum director Laurence Descartes says that's partly because of its age.
It's 9 centuries of history, really at the heart of Paris and at the heart of the history of France.
The museum was last upgraded in the 1980s when the now iconic glass pyramid, designed by I.M. Pei, was added to serve as its main entrance. Back then, 4 million people visited a year. Today, the museum attracts more than 9 million.
This is the biggest room in the museum, but when the Louvre is open to visitors, it's also the most crowded because of the popularity of this one painting, the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci.
The Italian masterpiece tops almost everyone's list when they visit the Louvre.
I want to see the painting Mona Lisa.
I always wanted to see it ever since I was little. I'm a big art fan, and this is one of the things that I look forward to.
But her popularity makes it harder for people to really appreciate the portrait or other artworks around it. And that's why the museum now wants to move her.
She's a sort of universal masterpiece, you know, and people want to spend time with her, and that's okay, and we need to organize that. But the Louvre is filled with 1,000 Mona Lisas.
An ambitious plan to refurbish the Louvre will see the painting moved to its own separate space, but visitors will need to buy an extra ticket to see it. A new entrance will be added to help manage visitor flow, replacing the pyramid as the main access point.
So it's going to go through this renovation costing $800 million. So that does mean that we're going to probably have to pay more if we want to visit that famous museum. And there's going to be a separate entrance for the Mona Lisa so that crowds can be dissipated. Anyhow, looking forward to that. This was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
Guess who I found in the hallway? Salmon and purple. I love the color, Andrew. Salmon Andrew.
All right.
What else would you call that color?
I don't know.
It's a salmon pink.
Fuchsia?
No.
I don't
Fuchsia
know.
needs more like a magenta hue. But anyhow, how are you?
Watch out for Paint Stick Cat over here that knows everything about shades of color.
No, I'm just saying. It's a beautiful color.
How am I?
How are you? Yeah.
I'm a bit tired. I don't know. I had a terrible sleep.
No.
It's not like I went to bed late. I think maybe a bit of burning the candle at both ends is kind of caught up to me. So, yeah. I think I need a little bit.
Too much work?
No, maybe too much play.
Okay.
Maybe too much play, yeah.
Yes.
So.
Hey, text topic.
Sure.
Any fond memories from graduation? Are there like traditions in Canada that are like different from, the States or like,
No, I think it's very typical.
There was no jjajangmyeon though, right?
No, well, I don't know. Maybe there could have been. I don't know. Definitely not in my family.
Right.
We had like a barbecue and stuff like that. But I would say it's probably very similar to what goes on in the U.S. I believe for us, we did the traditional, the march and all that kind of stuff in the gymnasium and speeches from the valedictorian, all that kind of stuff. Typical, American movie kind of stuff. And then my family, we celebrated, I think we maybe went to dinner, and then that weekend we had everyone over at my parents' place.
Ooh, like
for
a
a
weekend
barbecue.
celebration,
yeah,
right?
Like a barbecue, yeah.
Because like graduation falls on a weekday usually, right?
Yeah, typically, yeah.
Right, so it's very inconvenient.
Yeah, but nothing that stands out too much. And I remember, a friend of mine stood up in our ceremony and like screamed something, but I was kind of like, it was funny, it was good. But yeah, maybe I don't really want to share what he said. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are here for sports.
Jump into sports.
Yeah, so we're going to get things going today with an update from the Asian Winter Games taking place in Harbin, China. Now, South Korea, doing very well. Doing very. I don't want to go too harder on that because I don't want to jinx them for the rest of it.
Jinx. I mean, they've already reached their goal.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
Okay.
So we just want to keep that going. So the team has already reached its pre-games goal, securing an impressive 11 gold medals in their first few days. Now, snowboarder Jae-in's dominant performance in the slopestyle event and short track speed skater Jae-in Jung's multiple gold medals, including one in the mixed 2,000-meter relay, are just a couple of the highlights, from the thrilling start for Team Korea. Now, I was flicking back and forth from events on the weekend, and there probably could have been 3 or 4 more gold medals. You know,
so close.
Oh,
exciting!
Speed skating is roller derby on ice.
Which one was the one they had to restart it? Like how many times?
It was the men's.
It was the men's, right?
The men's, yeah. And then the Korean guy got DQ'd, disqualified.
Yes, he was penalized.
But that was just
intense.
Yeah, so I was watching that with my kids, and they're like, well, why did he do that? And I'm like, no, listen, in that sport, you have to attempt that. You have to try, or you're not going to get in front of somebody.
If you're not aggressive, you're going to be last.
Yeah, so it's all right. So beyond the gold, Korean athletes have shown across various events. Now, speed skater Kim In-sun sped to victory in the women's 500-meter, and the women's team sprint earned another gold. I guess it was probably their goal as well.
Goal and gold.
Although the men's ice hockey team faced a tough loss against Kazakhstan yesterday, actually, they finished their group in second, setting a stage for an exciting playoff run. Now, I don't know if you or our listeners have been following any of the ice hockey scores. Oh, my Lanta.
Lopsided, right?
Oh, there's been 30-0, 20. I think in the first, it was out of 15 games, there were 5 that were over 20.
Right.
Like the winning team. But again, you have countries like India and what was the other one? Like in Thailand and a couple places like this, who they're just not known for having hockey teams.
Right. Or
so, you know,
like freshly formed.
Yeah, they're giving it a go.
Right.
But yeah, so I think, you know, a lot of people did think Korea might lose to Kazakhstan, but, you know, they should have a good chance of getting to the medal round at least. All right. Now, a couple other competitions to come that might have a chance at medals. Curling, you know, it's always exciting.
Yes.
I'm usually screaming at the TV as well. Some more snowboarding action as well. We're in the next couple of days. So, you know, keep an eye out. So Korea has a total of 30 medals at the present time, 11 gold, 10 silver, and 9 bronze.
That's right. And for those of you following figure skating, Cha Junwon, is that his name?
Yes.
Okay, Ta something, for sure. I'm very bad at remembering Korean names, but they're skating tonight. So for the short program.
Again, I didn't want to jinx anybody.
Yeah, Mr. Cha.
There you go.
Cha Junhwan, excuse me. Yes, so he will be on tonight. They say I saw the schedule. Everybody was asking me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't memorize the schedule.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
My wife does the same thing. Hey, what game's on today? I said, I don't know. She goes, you're like a sports person.
I'm
like, let's settle down there. Come on.
My family thinks like I know everything. I do. I'm a know-it-all, but like not to that.
She was going to say that.
Right. And by the way, was it Michael commenting like, "Oh, Andrew, he sounds like he just came off the ice somewhere." Like,
there
the
you
way
go.
they love your.
This is après ski. You know, I got my.
Well, yesterday there was a big sporting event.
Yeah, definitely. So the big game is what a lot of people you have to call the big game in some. Online aspects, because if you say Super Bowl, they kind of take it away. So the Philadelphia Eagles soared to victory in the Super Bowl, I guess, yesterday morning? Yesterday morning here in Korea, Sunday in the States, defeating Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. I think that score is a little bit flattering to Kansas City because all their points pretty much came in the last 4 minutes or whatever it was. So in a stunning upset, the Eagles dominated both sides of the ball, denying the Chiefs their shot at the rare three-peat. Now, this all took place at the Superdome in New Orleans, in Louisiana.
Yes.
It was pretty interesting. I don't know. I watched a bit of the first half, and then I had some things I had to do, and then met up with some buddies at a place here in the city, and I walked in, I went, what's going on? Why is it 24-0?
Yeah.
I couldn't really believe it. So quarterback Jalen Hurts earned the Super Bowl MVP award for his outstanding performance, leading the Eagles' potent offense with both precision passing and impressive rushing ability. He was doing everything. There was a halftime show headlined by Kendrick Lamar and surprise appearance by SZA
And
Samuel L. Jackson.
And you know who else?
Uncle Sammy
Venus
called himself.
Williams was dancing.
She was crip walking all over that stuff. It was pretty amazing. Yeah. And the comments that came out from that, because of all the, the Kendrick and Drake drama.
The drama.
And it was like, there's Venus Williams, or Serena Williams, Serena Williams, crip walking all over Drake's grave. And I was like, whoa.
Umberto thought it was horrible. He's like, the halftime show was horrible.
I think, do you know what?
And Tommy says, the score was unbelievable. So people were watching.
There you go. It is what it is, I guess, right? So it's pretty amazing. Now, I got a clip here. This is the legendary Tom Brady interviewing during his interview with Jalen Hurts after the game, giving him some sound advice, but also some congratulations. Let's get to it.
All right.
Soak it in. It's going to take a while to process it. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and you're going to feel so good. What I want you to feel good about is don't let that jersey out of your sight. I had a few stolen over the years. So keep track of that. It's going to be memorable down the road. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations to you and your team. You guys played so well all season long, and there couldn't be a better Super Bowl champion than the Philadelphia Eagles, and you led them to victory. Congrats.
Don't lose your jersey. Keep that. Right? It's kind of interesting. But yeah, so I mean, some people disappointed with it. I mean, if you're an Eagles fan shouting "Go Birds," I think you're pretty proud of it. You're happy.
Yes.
But there's just so many neutrals that would love to just see a more competitive game.
Right.
Like last year was a very amazing Super Bowl. But
and didn't the Chiefs win the two prior?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. So it's like, it's like we don't want the same team winning.
No,
I know there are a lot
the
of
Swifties are going to come after you.
Oh gosh,
the Swifties are coming after Cat.
Even our waivers, most of them were rooting for Kansas City. So I'm just saying, underdog story.
Losers.
Yes.
All right.
Well, somebody has to lose. It is a football game, right?
Yeah, talking about losers.
Oh no,
Liverpool.
Tottenham? Okay.
Tottenham. That was
Let's
kind of.
not talk about them.
No. For Tottenham, they're so injury just riddled right now.
Let's go to Liverpool.
Yeah. So in a stunning upset in the FA Cup, Plymouth Argyle, who are they? They sit at the bottom of the championship. Wayne Rooney was their manager. And he kind of left on mutual consent so that the team...
championship, to explain, we have the Premier League on top. And then the second kind of, how do we say?
Second tier?
Tier is...
The championship.
But they're kind of towards the bottom.
They're fighting relegation.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you.
Yeah, they call it, it's the beauty of the cup. So Ryan Hardy converted a second half penalty after Harvey Elliott's handball, which I was screaming at my TV.
Yes.
Sending the Green Army into raptures. Liverpool, despite fielding a much changed side, Arne Slot, I think there was 10 changes from the game on the weekend. So he played the kids.
Yes.
It didn't really pan out. All right. And also Plymouth's goalkeeper made some phenomenal saves in the last probably 5-6 minutes. Which, people probably thought could have been goals. So this marks Plymouth's first win against Liverpool since 1956.
What, 1956?
Exactly. All right.
Whoa.
And sends them through to the next round of the FA Cup. Argyle manager Miran Music hailed it as the biggest win of his career, and some people would say even of the team's career. And it's something, as a Liverpool fan, I can be all right with them losing to this team. The other team deserved it. And also watching their fans, it was pandemonium in that stadium, which was pretty amazing. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, we're going to leave it on that note.
Sure.
And call it a wrap.
All right.
But of course, we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Andrew.
Have a good one.
Yes. Andrew with sports. And here is a Bad Case of Loving You by Robert Palmer. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
I've gotta find my baby yet. I need you to soothe my head.
모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
These are the guidelines for action for people in the event of an apartment building fire. First, if evacuation is possible in the event of a fire in your home, move to a safe place in a low posture by using stairs. And if evacuation is difficult, move to an evacuation space or block the door gap and call 119 for rescue. Second, if a fire breaks out in another home and no flames or smoke enters your home, wait inside the home, call 119, and act according to the announcement. Third, if flames and smoke come into your home in the event of a fire in another home, check to see if evacuation is possible and then evacuate or request rescue. This was brought to you by the Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the National Fire Agency.
살림꾼 김재우의 살림템 추천. 창틀 바람막이로 실내 온기 지켜줄게. 포장은 다회용기로, 플라스틱 거절한다. 우리 식재료로 유통을 줄이면 탄소를 줄일 수 있어. 이 모든 건 기후위기에 대응하는 지구 살림템. 여러분도 함께해요. 공익광고협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now time for news highlights. Court to hold hearing on whether to cancel Yoon's detention. The Seoul Central District Court will hold a hearing on February 20th to determine whether to cancel President Yoon Suk-yeol's detention. The hearing will take place simultaneously with the first preparatory hearing for his criminal trial connected to his botched imposition of martial law. Yoon's legal team filed for the detention revocation last Tuesday, claiming that the prosecution indicted the president after his detention period had ended and that the grounds for the detention are unwarranted. Prosecutors indict 63 courthouse riot suspects. Prosecutors have indicted 63 people for their alleged involvement in violence at the Seoul Western District Court last month in protest against the issuance of an arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol. The Seoul Western District Prosecutor's Office said that 49 are accused of breaking into the courthouse complex and committing violence and vandalism. Prosecutors are continuing their investigation into 8 others who have separately been placed under custody in connection with the incident. The prosecution vowed to work closely with the police for a thorough investigation into what it called a serious crime that fundamentally ignores the rule of law and the judicial system. Teacher stabs 8-year-old student to death at elementary school in Daejeon. A female teacher in her 40s allegedly stabbed an 8-year-old student to death at an elementary school in Daejeon yesterday and inflicted stab wounds on herself, authorities said. Police found the two with stab wounds at the school after the student's parents reported her missing. The teacher had taken a leave of absence due to depression and had returned to work late last year. Police later said the teacher admitted to the crime and the police will resume questioning after she recovers from surgery. One dead, one injured in oil tank explosion in Ulsan. One person died and another was injured when an oil storage tank at Onsan Industrial Complex in Ulsan exploded yesterday. The two people were workers who had opened the tank to check the level of chemical substance inside when the blast occurred. The fire was put out after about 3 hours. Acting President Choi Sang-mok gave emergency instructions to deploy all available resources to extinguish the blaze. Hamas suspends hostage release over ceasefire violation. Hamas has said it is delaying the release of Israeli hostages indefinitely over what it claims as violations of the ceasefire deal, posing threats to the 3-week-old ceasefire. This has prompted the Israeli defense minister to put the military on alert to prepare for any scenario in Gaza. Israel's security cabinet has moved forward a meeting to discuss negotiations on the second phase. The decision comes against a backdrop of U.S. and Israeli leaders taking increasingly hard-line positions about the long-term future of the Gaza Strip. In breaking news, Trump signs executive order on steel and aluminum tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports to the United States. Trump said there will be no exceptions to the tariff and added he is considering tariffs on cars, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. South Korea is the 4th biggest importer of steel to the United States. And this was News Highlights. It's now time for Waga. Haley's back.
Hello, hello.
Yes. So for our first story, this is an unfortunate story where, we have covered the death of weathercaster Oyoanna, allegedly after workplace bullying. The government is working on an anti-workplace bullying bill that would widen the scope of protection, correct?
Right. So the issue with this case involving deceased weathercaster Oyoanna or Yoanna Yo is that she and the alleged perpetrators are freelancers. They're not employees with MBC.
Yes.
So the government and the ruling People Power Party said that they will work on this special legislation to include freelancers as a part of workplace bullying. So this agreement came about last week after a meeting between the government and the party to strengthen protection for freelancers and platform workers who are currently not covered under the Labor Standards Act. So after the anti-bullying law or the revision to the Labor Standards Act went into effect, reports of workplace bullying actually doubled between 2020 and 2023, and 36% of respondents according to a civic group survey, said that they've been exposed to workplace bullying.
Right, but despite the high rate of reports, workplace bullying is difficult to prove.
Right. I mean, kind of similar to school bullying,
Yes.
the criteria are subjective and vague. So according to the law, workplace bullying is using one's superior status or relationship to inflict physical or mental suffering upon another person. And that would be beyond an appropriate professional level or worsening one's work environment.
Right.
So interpretation of beyond an appropriate professional level could vary case to case, because you could be reprimanded for a mistake you made, but that could cross a line. But who draws that line and where?
Exactly.
So between the same period, by the way, the Labor Ministry said the number of reports that finished with no legal violation also tripled. So while there are higher reports, not all of them are going through.
Yes.
So the government's plan is to acknowledge workplace bullying after just one violation instead of repeated violations in extreme cases like assault or verbal harassment. The Labor Ministry is also saying that the law needs to add repetition and continuation as criteria.
I see. So once again, this is something that can affect all of us. We're talking about workplace bullying.
Right.
So a tragic story. Once again, allegations at this point. But let's move on to our next story. Controversy over Chinese AI chatbot DeepSeek. So this is continuing.
Right. So let me ask you a simple question. Where is kimchi from?
Korea.
Of course.
Yes.
Bam. But that answer will differ according to DeepSeek depending on which language you ask this in.
It changes?
It changes. So
Okay.
according to the Korean National Intelligence Service, the NIS, when you ask this question to DeepSeek in Korean, 김치는 어디 음식이야? It'll say Korea. And then add that kimchi is a food with Korean culture and history. 한국의 문화와 역사가 깃든 대표적인 음식이다. But when you ask that in English, it says in the Korean, 한국과 관련이 있음. It's related to Korea. It has to do with
There's
Korea.
a link.
There's a link. I'm just like, that's an interesting wording. You ask that question in Chinese, it'll say the origin of kimchi is not Korea, but China. Yeah. So Silence, yeah, crickets. This was a part of the NIS's security and tech verification with DeepSeek. As a result, the spy agency warned that DeepSeek can collect excessive personal information and provide user information to the Chinese government. Not that it does it for sure, but it could. And unlike ChatGPT and other common forms of generative AI, DeepSeek will also collect discernible individual information like keyboard patterns, so what you're typing in, and communicate with Chinese servers. So basically, what you type in, your chat history could be sent to Chinese firms. It also automatically shares user data with advertisers without a set date. That's what's different from other forms of generative AI. So with such privacy concerns, domestic usage of DeepSeek has been going down quite sharply. According to a mobile app analysis site, DeepSeek's monthly active user figures, or rather daily active user figures, it dropped from 191,000 on January 28th at the very beginning and the peak of this interest to 61,000 on February 6th. So that's a 60% decline in the span of a week.
Right. And I won't read the comments verbatim. There's a lot of waggling going on in our chat rooms as to this particular story. I'll just leave it at that. We can't read them online. All right, let's move on. For some people, when they order online, the shipping costs, this might be a deal breaker. And this is particularly true for people who live in Jeju, for example.
Right. And you know how much contemplation and clicking goes in my head over that 3,000 won shipping fee? And it's 3,000원.
Right.
Imagine having to pay 100,000 won. 10만 won for shipping.
For what?
But I'm like, am I shipping furniture? Cars?
Exactly.
Like, what am I shipping? But what about just for meat?
고기?
불고기.
How much are you buying?
I know. I'm like, am I buying a whole
a ton?
Butcher? So this was the case for one Jeju resident. According to a report, this person was trying to buy almost 50,000 won, 5만 won worth of bulgogi. Although in this economy, I don't know how much that is. Like
not much.
How in weight.
Yes.
Because they lived in Jeju, their address was in Jeju. The seller charged an additional 100,000 won for shipping, for 배송비. So, Jeju residents are used to no shipping to the island. But this definitely, 10만 won is an oddity.
Especially for 5만 원 worth
Exactly,
of
if you're buying like $50 worth of meat and paying double. So the website explained that they actually tried to stop orders, basically put Jeju as a no-order spot because of shipping. But the website wouldn't let it. The system won't let it designate a no-order spot. So they just set the cost at something ridiculously high to prevent people from buying. But this apparently is just the tip of the iceberg because Jeju's residents also reported unfair demands to the provincial government's website. For example, and this is an actual case lodged to the website as a complaint, a 30,000 won bag, 3만 원 가방, with the 999,991 shipping. 9,900 won
They're
shipping.
saying basically 시키지 마세요. 주문하지 마세요. Don't order. Yes.
And then one washing machine, which was like 200,000 won, also had almost 1 million won shipping. Yeah.
So are they allowed to do this?
Well, because, it's a private company. There's no law, no standard, so companies can charge however much they want to for shipping. But one local council member called for the government or even private measures to standardize shipping. 2 years ago, Jeju reported 12,000 cases of unfair or unjustified additional shipping costs.
Yes.
By the way, already Jeju residents pay about 6 times in shipping costs, and the demand is that they need to come down. However, let's represent both sides.
Yes,
this is
yes.
one comment from a netizen on this particular news article.
Okay.
They say that they're friends with some people who have online shopping malls and say that Jeju has a higher rate of returns. And that might be because, for example, for clothing, they can't try it on, so you just kind of buy it and return it. But the cost of this may be built into that higher shipping cost. And definitely it does cost more if you're, if you have to cross an ocean or a sea, a strait to get to an island. But I'm saying there's a need to hear from both sides, but maybe a further discussion.
But I've seen sites, I don't know how legal it is, but I have seen sites that say, hey, there are no returns on this particular product, so please choose carefully. And as Jubro said, 배보다 배꼽이 더 크네요.
Exactly.
Well, let's go to our last issue, which is the always controversial electric scooters. So the e-scooters. Authorities are looking at implementing a separate license to operate such, but this may not be going over very well.
Right. And you might be wondering, wait a minute, isn't there already a license required
I thought there was.
to drive, ride? Beyond
However,
use? I've seen
young people.
And by the way, when I say young people, I mean young people like multiple people on the scooter. So under the current Road and Traffic Act, these shared e-scooters, 공용 킥보드, they're only allowed for people 16 and older with a motorcycle's license or above. But of course, we've all seen it. It's not followed in reality. So the police are working on an e-scooter license. But so they're working on what would be entailed, what would be included, and the standards would come out sometime next year.
Sure.
And that would include definitely a written exam, which we took for our driver's licenses.
Right?
But there's also criticism about the practicality because the whole point of an e-scooter license is that the current system isn't realistic or practical.
Yes.
But the criticism is that this may not be effective because the written exam can only be taken in one of the 27 sites nationwide.
I see.
So if we are talking about minors, 14, 15-year-olds who are resorting to e-scooters because they can't drive, obviously, are they really going to schlep themselves to one of these 27 spots? So there are also calls for online exams. Apparently, Singapore has online written tests for licenses, for motor vehicle licenses. But in any case, whether there are licenses or not, please inform yourselves and your loved ones, your children especially, about how important e-scooter safety is.
Yes.
Because the number of personal mobility accidents, which include e-scooters, they've increased by 5.3 times. So we're talking about 530% in the last 5 years. Most of them have to do with people not wearing helmets. And I mean, if I had a dime for any time I've seen someone riding these e-scooters without helmets,
we would be rich.
My goodness. So 75% of people who have had to visit emergency rooms from personal mobility or e-scooter accidents, they were not wearing helmets. 4 out of 10 severe patients sustaining major head injuries. And this rate was definitely higher for children and teenagers.
I see.
Please. Yes, safety, utmost importance.
And please don't leave them anywhere or everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, let's not.
At least make sure they're standing.
Yes.
If you're going to park it on a sidewalk.
To the side somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to call it a wrap for today for Wagelwager, but we'll definitely join us again tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
That's right. See you tomorrow.
All right. It's time for your updated traffic and weather. It's time for your traffic update. There is an accident on Byeongno going into the city right past Suyeong Tunnel. Please make note of this. Avoid that area if you can. There's also congestion on the Namhae Expressway from Namsanjeong Station to the Deokcheon Interchange. Likewise, traffic building on Bansonglo from the Allak Overpass going toward the Chungnyeolsa Station. And lastly, it's looking slow right around the Hwangyong Tunnel going toward Seomyeon right now. Currently, it is -2. And the good news is it's going to go up to 9 degrees Celsius, so much warmer than before. There is a dry weather special report in place over Busan. Across the country, yes, some areas we're looking at -10, but the daytime high will go over the 0 degrees Celsius mark across most parts. Clouds to start rolling in tonight with rain forecasts in Jeonnam and Jeju. This was your traffic and weather.
too sexy for my love. Too sexy for my love. Love's going to leave me.
This is I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred.
Shirt so sexy it hurts, and I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. And I'm too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party, the way I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean, and I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk. Too sexy by far. And I'm too sexy for my hat, too sexy for my hat. What you think about that? I'm a model, you know what I mean, and I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. My little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. I'm too sexy for my cat, too sexy for my cat. Poor pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love. Love's going to leave me, and I'm too sexy for this song.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that song. Okay, so let's talk about our text topic one last time before we get into our special interview. So I asked you about graduation, wherever you are, whether it be here in Korea or abroad. Some of the stuff that happens or traditions that you kept. Apparently here in Korea, there's a tradition of of sprinkling or throwing flour, 밀가루, at your teachers as you're graduating. And there was a funny comment by, I believe it was Taejin, who said that, yes, the whole idea of, throwing the flour on teachers, that is definitely a graduation thing. However, it was also the era of 밀가루 뿌리면 그 시절이잖아요. That era, there was still corporal punishment. 밀대로 맞을 시절이었죠. Right. So that is why apparently some kids refrain from doing that. And there are many people who apparently have skipped their graduations. Like Umberto is saying that he skipped his graduations for external reasons, whether it be all the way from real early on to later on in university. So that was his personal take on graduation. So yes, I know graduation is a time where one thing ends, but it's also the beginning of another phase of one's life. So to all the graduates out there, and for those who are family members or parents to those graduating, congratulations, job well done, and the best of luck in your next phase of life. Let's get to our special interview. Bird flu, also known as avian influenza, the other AI, is a virus that primarily infects birds but can sometimes spread to other animals and humans. Recently, new strains like the H5N1 and the H5N9 have emerged, affecting poultry farms and even dairy cows, mainly in the United States. And while human cases remain rare, the potential for the virus to mutate and spread among people is definitely a concern. Let's better understand the current situation and also learn about preventive measures. We have invited Dr. Andrew Pekosh, who's a professor and vice chair of the Department of Molecular Microbiology and Immunology at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Hi, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So first, if you can give us an overview of what the current situation is like, because even yesterday I commented on the fact that in the U.S. there are reports saying that, linked to avian influenza, even the price of eggs are soaring, etc. So what's going on in the U.S. and globally right now?
Yeah, well, in the U.S. in particular, we've had a number of outbreaks of avian influenza at poultry farms, both farms that are making chickens for poultry meat, as well as egg-laying farms for producing eggs that are consumed by the public. We've also had continued outbreaks at dairy cow farms, which has started to affect the amount of milk that's being entering into the U.S. Economic system. And so these have really started to interrupt the economics of the U.S., as well as posing a potential risk to those workers who are at the poultry farms or the dairy farms in terms of increasing their risk of being exposed to these viruses.
I see. And so, there have been so many headlines flying about regarding avian influenza, bird flu. And you just mentioned how, it's spreading to even dairy cow farms as well. And what about human cases? Have there been cases where this has gone over to human beings?
Yes, there have. Most of the cases have been in people who have come in direct contact with either infected cows, who've worked on dairy farms, or who work in poultry facilities where the animals were infected. Most of those infections have been mild. They're a little bit different from what you'd expect from seasonal influenza. The infections are mostly eye infections with a little bit of respiratory infection. But we have had one case in the U.S. of a person who has died from H5N1 infection. And in Canada, there has been one case of a person who was hospitalized for several weeks with an H5N1 infection.
Right.
So we're seeing both the mild as well as those very severe outcomes with H5N1 based on factors that we really aren't quite clear about.
Indeed. And so when we talk about bird flu, as the name, avian influenza does seem to indicate, primarily infecting birds. But we've already talked about the fact that, yes, it can spread to humans. But once it gets into humans, I'm curious to know, Professor, so it goes from, let's say, a type of bird to person directly. And then from person to person transmission, is that likely or is this something that rarely happens?
Yeah, that's with avian flu, we have not seen that person to person transmission, which is so easy for human influenza to do, especially during the colder months of the year. What we have seen is people who are working with these animals who get exposed environmentally through either splashes or those kind of things, that they can get an infection. And again, that infection at times is mild, but there have been a couple of cases of very severe infections. And globally, we've had over 300 deaths from H5N1 influenza over the past, let's say, 15 years or so. So we know that H5N1 can cause severe disease. We know that it can't spread very well from person to person yet. So a lot of public health officials and virologists like myself are really trying to monitor the situation to see if there are any signs that that virus might be gaining an ability to do something like spread from person to person.
Yes, because, even with, let's say, I know it's totally unrelated, but, we all went through the pandemic together, right? And people hear about like the word mutate or mutations. And then people get worried, right? They get concerned about, well, could this mutate and then make it, become easily transmissible between person to person? And you just said, Professor, that, you plus other experts are keeping a keen eye on what's happening. But is that likely that it'll mutate to the point where it might become easily transmissible from person to person?
Yeah, that's a question that we just don't really know the answer to. But one of the things that I always emphasize is, that viruses can oftentimes adapt to almost anything if they're given the chance and the opportunity to do so. And we've already seen in that case I mentioned of the person who died of H5N1 in the United States, when the virus in that person was sequenced, we could see mutations occurring in that virus that could make it better at replicating in human cells. Same thing with the case in British Columbia, in Canada. And with the latest outbreak here in dairy cows in the U.S., we're also seeing some mutations that might make the virus better at infecting mammals as opposed to birds. So you're seeing the virus sort of take these opportunities and mutate and become better. And what we really need to do is minimize the opportunities that this virus has to adapt to mammals, because that's the best way to keep us safe. If we give this virus too many chances, the analogy I like to use is if you buy one lottery ticket, it's very unlikely you win. But if you buy 10,000 lottery tickets, your chances are a little bit better that you'll win.
Yes.
And by letting these viruses replicate in cows and so close to humans, we're giving the virus too many chances to try to mutate.
Yes. And so, some of our listeners, they're curious, and they're chiming in right now, very curious about our interview. What about the avian influenza? It seems like, we've been hearing about it for so long, and scientists and experts have known about it. So is there no cure, or are vaccines being used on these farms?
Well, there are vaccines for this particular avian influenza virus that can be used in poultry in some countries. No vaccines that are used in dairy cows, and no vaccines approved for use in humans, although we have, especially in the U.S., made a few studies and generated some amounts of vaccines that we think would work against this particular virus. The U.S. has also funded a few studies to try to use other technologies like the mRNA technology, which was made so famous in COVID for the vaccines, to try to use those technologies to make vaccines for H5N1.
Yes.
So nothing in place right now, but we think we know how to make a good H5N1 vaccines, and many governments are trying to invest in that. The other thing we have, too, is we do have some antivirals that work against seasonal influenza that we know will work against H5N1. So unlike COVID, when we had no tests, we had no antivirals, we had no vaccines when that pandemic started, we're in a much better place now in that we have a lot of tools that we can apply to help minimize this pandemic because of the experience that we've had working with human seasonal influenza viruses.
Right. We have another comment and questions from one of our listeners, and they say that, is it true, they read in the news, and they want to know if it's true, if it's fake news, that this has also been found, avian influenza, spreading to other animals like cats or raccoons, bears, sea lions, etc. So are there cases? Is this true, Professor?
Unfortunately, that is true. We know that there are cases in foxes, bears, even in sea lions that we think are related to them getting exposed to wild birds that have the H5N1 virus.
Wild birds, yes.
Yeah. And then perhaps even more concerning, we know that on the dairy farms where we have H5N1 infections in the dairy cows, there have been cats on those farms that have drunk milk that was contaminated with H5N1 and have subsequently died from infection.
Wow.
So we do feel like that threat is broader on these farms, that other animals on these farms can pick up the infections. Avian influenza in dairy cows doesn't necessarily cause a lot of severe disease in those cows, but it increases the likelihood that things like cats and other animals on those farms will get exposed. And in those animals, the infection can be very severe.
Right. And our next question is this. So if avian influenza affects poultry and dairy products like we talked about, is it safe for human beings and obviously other animals too, but is it safe to consume these foods?
Yes, particularly foods that are in the commercial pipeline, because when avian influenza infects a poultry facility, the animals start to die within a day or two. And so it's very clear that the infection's going on, and there's almost no time for either eggs or for chickens to leave those farms to enter the food supply. The farm is shut down. All of the animals on the farm are what we call culled or eliminated.
Yes.
And then all of the food products are disposed of. And all the facilities are cleaned to try to control that infection.
Indeed.
So the commercial side is very well controlled. There is a little bit more risk from the backyard flocks or the live bird markets that are present, because there the testing isn't as great. And so certainly we've had some cases in New York City here in the U.S. of birds at live bird markets testing positive for H5 influenza. And that's concerning because, like I said, that's a place where people are coming more frequently in contact with live birds, and their potential to get infected might be greater.
Thanks for kind of allaying our fears, though, about the food supply. So I definitely thank you for that response. Well, if the bird flu or avian influenza were to become a larger threat, Professor, what can we do just as human species? For those of us who don't work on these types of farms or come into close contact with birds or, animals that may, already have avian influenza, what can we do as the general public to make sure that we are vigilant for preventive health? What can we do?
Yeah, I think the critical thing to know is for most people, the risk of avian influenza is very, very low. It is present, though, in birds that are migrating.
Yes.
And so if you are happening to, for instance, go for a walk in the woods and see some dead animals, certainly stay away from them. Here in the U.S., some states are asking people to report them to their Department of Agriculture, but to not touch them in any way. Same goes true for people who have bird feeders in their backyards, for instance. Here in the U.S., most of the U.S. is in winter, and people like to put out seeds for their birds.
Right.
If they see these birds die, they should not touch them or move them in any way. Those common sense things are the most important thing for most people to understand right now, because it may be rare, but it can happen, and it's best to be aware of those situations.
Well, thank you for schooling us on what we need to know so that we are better prepared when we come into contact with anything like that. Thanks for joining us today, Professor. We do appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
This was Dr. Andrew Pekhosh, and we talked about bird flu. So the good news is the food supply, we can rest assured, is safe. And if you come into contact with anything that looks suspicious, yes, definitely call the authorities and don't touch anything. This was your special interview. All right, let's get to a song break. So here it is. This is Hand Clap by Fitz and the Tantrums.
Turn it up! Somebody save your soul, cause you've been sinning in the city. I know too many troubles, all these lovers got you losing control. You like a drug to me, a luxury, my sugar and gold. I want the good life every good night, you're a hot one to hold. Cause you don't even know I can make your hands clap. Said I can make your hands clap. Somebody save your soul, cause you've been sinning in the city. I know too many troubles, all these lovers got you losing control. You like a drug to me, a luxury, my sugar and gold. I want your sex and your affection when they're
We could be screaming till the sun comes out. And when we wake, we'd be the only sound. Get on my knees and say your friend James Brown. But I can make your hands clap. Through your worst and best, don't ever deny. I'm like a stranger, give me danger. All your wrong and you're right. Secrets on Broadway to the freeway. You're a keeper of crime. Still no conviction. Grips of rock can only sweeten your wine. But you don't even know. I can make your hands clap. Said I can make your hands clap. Every night when the stars come out, am I the only living soul around? Need to believe you could hold me down, 'cause I'm in need of something good right now. We could be screaming till the sun comes out, and when we wake, we'd be the only sound. Get on my knees and say your friend James Brown. But I can make your hands clap.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It's time for a Bonnie and the Hell.
Good morning.
Hello, love your little like knitted cap hat.
Thank you. It's
so
helping
pretty.
to keep anything to keep me a little bit warmer.
Right. And that's
Getting
why
through
they
the
give like
days.
newborns like little caps. No, it's
Yeah.
to like, trap the heat. To
Yeah.
keep you warm.
Yeah.
So it is true. Hey, for our text topic, we're talking about graduation. It's that season.
Yeah.
So like, did you have any memorable, events or like, in Korea, they're into the, I don't know anymore if it's true. Nobody will confirm. 아직도 짜장면 드시는지 아무도 얘기를 안 해주세요. Here in Korea, right? So like, did you do something special with your family or what did you do?
Not particularly with my family.
Uh-huh.
My college actually had this tradition though that I went to college at UCSB in Santa Barbara in California, and we were the Gauchos. That's like our mascot, which is an Argentinian cowboy.
Really?
But it was
I
tradition.
thought all the UCs were bears.
No.
Okay.
UC Santa Cruz is a banana slug.
Oh,
yeah, they're all
okay.
different.
I thought they were
but
like all bear family.
We were
No.
Argentinian cowboys, so it was tradition at the end of graduation that students would throw corn tortillas. So everybody would have their gowns, and then people would have corn, like bags of corn tortillas underneath
and do
their
what?
gowns. And then at the very end, you throw your hat.
Your cap,
so
right.
everybody would throw their hat, and then also corn tortillas would just go flying all over the place.
That.
So
How
it was
fun is
so
that?
it was quite funny and fun. And then the birds loved it afterwards. I'm not a fan of wasting food, but don't worry, the birds all got to eat it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, that was the only fun thing that we had.
That is really fun though.
Yeah, I guess.
Corn tortillas. And Michael Kim says, 본인님 젊어지게 해주세요. Like everybody's just like waiting, like feed us, buddy. All right, here we go.
I don't know about younger, but
healthier, yes.
Healthier, yes.
Okay.
Which will also make you younger, maybe live longer.
Yes.
Today, so we keep going over all these different ingredients,
Yes.
different things that you can add to your life to kind of make yourself healthier. But I need to follow through.
Okay.
Did we get any apple cider vinegar? Did anybody take a shower or bath in vinegar this past week?
That I forgot, but I have an update on the sourdough.
Oh.
So I forced my sister to order.
Yeah.
And then she canceled her order.
Oh, no.
And the reason she told me, there's a good reason. She said, "Onni, we have to wait till it's a little warmer."
Oh.
For it to, like, I guess,
the natural
multiply it well.
fermentation.
It's a little too cold.
Okay.
So she said she's going to reorder, like, in March.
Okay. Put it on your calendar.
I'll
be waiting. I'll ask
I'm going to
you
mark
again.
it, right?
Along with the vinegar.
The vinegar.
But,
I love the vinegar. I didn't do the vinegar yet.
Yeah, so good for, if you missed it last week, good for exfoliation. Put some vinegar on your body, scrub.
Yes.
But this week, something else that is great for your health, and I think we all know this, honey. I think it's pretty well known that honey is good for your health, of course. But I'm going to let you know some tips on which kind of honey to get, what you can look for, kind of different uses.
Okay.
But basically, we know it's a really great antioxidant. And all these benefits are outlined by healthline.com. Will help premature aging, right off the bat. So and protect against diseases. But I want to also note that more of the darker varieties of honey might have more antioxidants. So when you are shopping, instead of getting the really light colored honey, if you are concerned about trying to boost up your antioxidants, especially in this cold flu season that we're still in right now, then look for some darker varieties.
Okay, good tip.
The honey. Also, it's better than other sweeteners for your blood sugar levels. So we keep talking about this, how you don't want these big glucose spikes. This is why sourdough is really good for you. That's why apple cider vinegar or any kind of vinegar is great to add to your diet.
Sure.
But also, honey will actually help to regulate your blood sugar level, and the antioxidants will help to prevent type 2 diabetes. So you're thinking, oh, but it's still a sugar. How does this work? But
yes,
it helps to regulate those glucose levels and reduce inflammation in the body, but it still is a sugar. So in moderation. I'm not saying because it'll help you prevent disease and it's an just because of that, don't go out and have a whole jar of it for lunch, right?
Bonnie did not say that.
Yeah, in moderation. But if you are somebody that likes a little bit sweetness to whatever you're eating, so if you're having your morning oatmeal or teas and things, instead of sugar, try switching to honey.
You know what I do love honey for? And I use the good honey is when I have the Greek yogurt that I make at home. And then with the fruit.
Yes.
And then on top, I just sprinkle a little bit. Not
a little
too much.
drizzle.
Just a little drizzle.
Yeah.
That's like really nice.
It's so yummy. And there's so many different flavors and kinds that you can get. So, try them all out.
Okay.
But this is also, especially for women, all the women out there, it's really great for your heart.
Oh.
So a study published by the National Library of Medicine found that with their 4,500 participants that were over 40, they took a light to moderate amount of honey. So about a tablespoon 5 to 7 times a week.
Okay.
But the women in this study had a lower risk of high blood pressure.
Really?
Yes, than the men.
Okay.
I'm not sure why the men didn't test so positive with this, but the women really great for your heart.
Okay.
So if you're somebody that's concerned about that, a woman, add some honey into your diet.
Okay.
Also, topically, honey can be used topically to help treat wounds.
For our listeners, topically means like on your skin.
Yes, directly on a wound or a burn in particular.
Yes.
So especially Manuka honey is really great for this. It is super high in antibacterial properties and anti-inflammatory healing properties.
Yes.
So if you keep a jar of this in your home, if you run out of whatever ointment you might have, this is really great to calm down the skin if you have a wound or a burn. And if you're outside, maybe you're in the woods trekking or something, keep a little jar of honey with you. Really good to have.
Yes.
Also, for those of you out there that might have a bad cough or a sore throat in this cold season, add some honey maybe before you go to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Some studies have even found that it is more effective than cough medications. So you can have, we see a lot of honey lozenges, honey cough drops that you can take kind of as candy, but also really good to add to tea, or if you mix it in with a little bit of lemon with water before you go to bed, it can actually help you sleep at night also. So if you add a little bit before you go to bed, it can help produce melatonin. So this can actually help you not even get to bed, but also have a really good night's sleep as well.
Okay.
So if you're having trouble getting through the night, maybe because of a sore throat or a cough, try having a little bit of honey beforehand.
Yes.
And also, just for all of our beauty care listeners out there, you can actually make a honey mask for your skin.
Okay, let's
And it's
hear this.
really good to
anti-inflammatory. It will brighten your skin. It will kind of bring out all the impurities. So detox your skin. Also really great for moisturizing and hydrating your skin, especially in this winter dryness.
So we just need to like slather ourselves.
Yeah,
like
all over. First the vinegar, then the honey.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Tommy, he's being funny, as he always is. Is it okay to mix Jack Dan thing with honey and apple cider vinegar? I don't know about
Hey,
that.
if you're going to have it anyways, might as well.
I don't know about that.
Boost it up. Maybe that's a whole new brand of cocktails you can
Another
make.
question. Dana M asks, I also, in quotes, drizzle honey on my yogurt, but I always feel like I'm almost, pouring a little too much. So how much of honey do we need to, intake?
I would say about a tablespoon or so per meal. And then in a whole day, definitely depends on your own blood sugar level.
Right,
so you can
right.
check with your doctor on this.
Okay.
But I would say per meal, per helping that you're having.
We don't want like
maybe not
3
going
scoops
over.
of honey.
Yes, because it
right.
still will boost your blood glucose levels.
Okay.
So let's keep it at like a moderate spoonful or so.
Yes.
That's safe.
Sounds good.
So now I'm going to let you know some tips on when you are getting your honey, what to look for.
Okay,
because
this
there
is
are lots of
important.
different types. Yes.
Yes.
When you are getting your honey, you want it to be raw or unfiltered. So this kind of honey will go through the minimal amount of processing that it takes, and it still will have all the great healthy, beneficial enzymes and nutrients.
Okay.
Because honey is packed with different vitamins and minerals, but the more processing it goes through, the more of those we will lose. So also you want to look for the word organic, and this is kind of a blanket term for all things out there that you buy, but this will ensure that the plants that the bees are getting the nectar from have not been sprayed with pesticides or any other chemicals.
Got it.
Because like anything else, the bees are getting, if you don't know how honey gets made, but the bees go to different plants and flowers, they get the nectar from them, and then they produce the honey from that.
Right.
So obviously if they're going to plants that have been sprayed with a chemical, there's a chance that that's going to get into the honey as well.
True.
So look for the label organic as well. And then, especially in Korea, so honey sometimes is expensive because of that process I just said. You're having to get the bees go out naturally, find this nectar, come back. You have to wait for them to produce it. It's also, kind of not dangerous, but the beekeepers have to go out there. There's a whole process to it. So it can be expensive. So some makers, not just in Korea, but all around the world, they will make honey not derived from flowers, but they will actually feed the bees a sugar syrup or a corn syrup instead of them naturally going out and getting this honey themselves. So this tactic is used by a lot of industrial honey makers. So the bees do not produce the same kind of nectar that they're going to produce if they're going out into nature.
Like naturally, right?
Yeah. So the amount of nutrients, like I said, the vitamins and minerals will all be less. And so what you want to look for, how do we tell? On the label in Korea, and I got this information from Sesame Sprinkles, who's kind of like a foodie expert here in Korea.
Yes.
But the word for industrially produced honey is 사양꿀. 사양꿀, this is probably what you don't want. This is industrial
so
honey.
Stay away from this if you can.
Yes, if you can. And then naturally produced honey is referred to as 천년꿀. So that is what you want to look out for. That means naturally produced.
There is a price difference though.
Yes. As in anything, you are paying for what you get.
The quality.
Yes. If you are just trying to get honey because you like the taste of it and you don't really care about the benefits, then you don't need to worry about it. But if you are somebody that wants to add the antioxidants, the minerals, the vitamins, then look for the 천년꿀.
Right.
And then also for local honey, this is really great for your health because if you are a person that is susceptible to allergies, if you are a person that really gets, really, really stuffed up during the allergy season, honey is a way to prevent this because the bees that get the pollen from the local native plants actually will have that pollen inside the nectar and that will go inside your body and help kind of act like an anti-allergen medicine. So local honey is really, really great for this. Now, different kinds of honey. Manuka honey is one of the most well-known honey. So this is like the apple cider vinegar of the vinegars. The Manuka honey is kind of like the high-grade, really great, very powerful antioxidant honey. So it's good for your wounds, good for sore throat, good for skin conditions, kind of good for everything. And these are sourced from New Zealand.
Yes.
And usually they are kind of like a cloudy kind consistency.
Yes.
So when you look at a jar of Manuka honey, it's not going to be really clear.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a little that's normal.
Okay.
And then also chestnut honey,
밤꿀. Okay.
and this is kind of different, like other forest honey. So there are forest honeys like pine and fir. This means that the bees go to the chestnut tree or the fir tree, and then they get the pollen from there.
Yes.
And then they make their honey. And these tend to have more antioxidants and have greater anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay.
So again, these are darker in color, so you can tell if it's a really good high antioxidant honey if it's a little bit darker amber color.
Okay, what about just one more?
Okay, another one popular is acacia honey.
Yes.
So this is really good for glycemic index if you're diabetic and good for liver detox. So if you're someone who enjoys a nice alcoholic beverage from here and there, then this acacia honey is really good for you.
In Korean, it's acacia, just in case.
Very common.
Acacia, yes.
And just some tips. You don't need to put your honey in the fridge because it is a natural antibacterial, so it will not mold. But if you put it in the fridge, it will crystallize. So you can just take it outside and warm it. But always use a clean, dry spoon when you are getting your honey out, because if other things go into the honey, especially moisture, such as water, it will mold it. And then
we need to talk about the risk before I let you go. Let's squeeze that in. Really important.
Yes. So, I mean, like I said before, it does have honey has sugar. So it does. You don't want to have a ton of it, always in moderation. And then also, you don't want to give it to babies under 1 year old.
Right.
So people at Happy Days probably know this, but just a disclaimer out there, their digestive systems can't really take it. So if anything, get local, raw, unfiltered, organic honey. Local is the best. So wherever you go in the world, try to get the local honey.
Thank you for schooling us on honey today. And we'll check in with you soon. Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, listeners, before I let you go, I do want to remind you that there are precautions to prevent wildfires. So what does this mean? It means do not burn rice paddies or banks around fields, agricultural debris or trash in forest areas also. It means don't smoke or litter cigarette butts in forest areas. Do not carry flammable materials like lighters or other items when you enter mountains. Also, dispose of ashes from wood-burning furnaces or boilers known as 화목 boiler without live embers. Also, if you start a fire or bring flammable materials, bring flames into forest areas, you may be subject up to 1 million won in fines. And if your negligence causes a wildfire, you may be subject to up to 3 years in prison or up to 30 million won in criminal fines. So once again, let's be careful out there and protect nature because we're all one, aren't we? I know it sounds really cheesy, but it is true. So let's be careful during this winter season. It's time to say goodbye. So as requested by Michael, here it is. 지나간다 by 김범수. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
열이 나면 언젠간 식듯이 감기처럼 춥고 열이 나는 내가 언젠간 날 거라 믿는다. 추운 겨울이 지나가듯 장마비도 항상 끝이 있듯 내 가슴에 부는 추운 비바람도 언젠간 끝날 걸 믿는다. 얼마나 아프고 아파야 끝이 날까. 얼마나 힘들고 얼마나 울어야 내가 다시 웃을 수 있을까. 지나간다. 이 고통은 분명히 끝이 난다.